Morning. What's the weather forecast for today then? Raining cats and dogs?
Sunny and bright, apparently. Not a halibut in sight. Mr. Smith hasn't been able to find anything to suggest an alien energy, so maybe for once we can stand down.
Do you want to meet a hero who never stands down? The silver bullet.
Did you do this?
Of course. What do you think?
It's good. It's really good. Is this what you want to do? I mean, after school.
Yeah, well, drawing's about the only thing I'm any good at, so...
Oh, don't do yourself down. You're bright. There's no doubt. Art really is your thing.
And I love comics, so I thought, why not? Look out, Stan Lee. Here comes Clyde Langer. I mean, the rocket scientist or whatever's fine if you're a super brain like Luke, but me...
What do you mean, super brain?
Well, he is, isn't he? He's a genius.
Yeah, but the way you say it, it's a bad thing if there's something wrong with him.
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Luke's my best mate. Are you all right?
No. To be honest, I'm sick and tired of the way you're always making fun of my son.
Sorry, Jim, what's going on?
Since you first showed up, all you've ever done is tell him how uncool he was, what a geek he was, what a freak he was. And all the while, you're wasting your time with rubbish like this. My son is worth 100 of you, and I've had just about as much as I'm going to take.
Sorry, Jane.
Get out now. Take your stupid comic book with you.
What's going on? I don't get it.
Get out!
This is crazy.
You want crazy? I'll give you crazy!
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast that's always on time and always on schedule, with me, Matthew, and I am joined with...
I'm not saying my name in case I am also cursed, so I'm leaving it at that, okay?
Yeah.
Scott.
Course,
my name is
course.
Scott.
Fuck you. I quit. As we are covering the Sarah Jane Adventures episode, episodes is a two-parter, The Curse of Clyde Langer, which is a fun time. It's been a while since we last dipped into Sarah Jane. What was the last Sarah Jane?
I believe it was Day of the Clown with Bradley Wall.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it's been a
My
while.
God, that was a long time ago.
Yes.
That was a very long time ago, and we are covering this one, and it's, you mentioned that it was similar to 73 Yards.
Yes,
which
yes. The main character
can
gets
definitely
cursed and
see.
Everybody starts hating him or her, so...
Yes,
That's basically all the similarities.
That's basically the entire plot of both episodes. But this episode here first aired on October 10th, 2011, which was a Monday, and as of today, the 13th of March, it was 13 years, 3 months, and 6 days ago. It's a very long time.
Half my lifetime ago. Jesus.
Yeah. In the United States, the president was Barack Obama, who was in his first term.
Oh my God.
And Prime Minister was David Cameron. There were some fun things going on in the world, like Occupy Wall Street and Occupy London. They were the two major things happening on this day on October 10th. There were huge protests for Occupy Wall Street and Occupy London. I was 11 years old when this was going on, so I have the vaguest memories of seeing it on the news and never really tapped into what the fuck was going on.
Yeah,
you know?
Same here. I don't know anything about it, but I'm sure you'll tell us. Maybe.
They were to demonstrate against economic inequality and protest the stock exchange. And in New York specifically, they said that nobody would be arrested as long as they operated within the law, which is the vaguest statement ever about protests. But it was basically like Wall Street has too much money. We're going to protest this income inequality and bring change for all. And it worked. Everything's good now.
Yes,
thank God for that. Whew.
Yes.
That was a close one. That was a close one there.
Yeah, I remember Obama came out on Christmas Day and gave out speech and solved everything.
He's gonna fix this, solved every problem for
Those
the world.
homeless people were really excited about it in Britain. Remember that? Yeah, classic.
But outside of economic turmoil, people were spending their hard-earned, hard-come-by cash in the cinemas. And there is 2 different movies for the UK and the US box office. I would say one movie is better than the other.
Okay.
I prefer the US movie. But let's start with the US one. I have clues lined up if you would like clues.
So
but just take some shots in the dark.
it's October, so I'm imagining there's something spooky for both.
Wrong.
Oh, okay. For
There's
none of them.
nothing
Okay.
No spookiness.
Okay. Well,
No, it's not. It's the start of October. We're not
2011.
we're not Halloween yet. So the
2011.
spooky stuff comes after, closer to Halloween.
2011.
Mm-hmm.
What came out in 2011? I don't even know.
It's a very 2011 movie. It's a very cool movie. I think underappreciated. For the US, that is. I can,
not much of a
give you
fucking
some more.
hint. More hints.
Okay, I'll give you. It's a science fiction sports drama.
Speed Racer? No, that's
No.
2009, isn't it? No.
Yeah.
Science fiction sports drama.
Yes.
I'm not gonna get this.
It's about a boxer.
Oh, is it
who's
Real
trying-
Steel?
It is real
Okay.
steel
That's a-
with huge jacked man.
That's a movie I've not seen, but I've seen the original Twilight Zone episode that the movie is based on. So,
Oh wow!
good episode of Twilight Zone. I need to watch more Twilight Zone. Good series.
You should watch Real
I
Steel. I
should,
haven't
yes.
seen it since it came out, but I remember it being a very, very fun time and a good vibe. Some nicer robot fights
Nice.
happening in it, and it's just kind of like the Simpsons, the Futurama, with the boxing robots in Futurama. don't
I mean,
know
there
if you
was a
remember that.
Simpsons episode where there was robot boxing or robot fighting, and
Yeah.
Homer was in the robot costume.
And he was the robot. Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that
Classic.
episode. Yeah. Fun fact about Real Steel: it broke Rocky IV's record for the
Ooh.
highest weekend debut for a boxing film, making $27 million on the opening weekend, which is crazy.
Nice.
Because it's crazy it doesn't have any sequels. I would have expected
Yeah.
it to
maybe
be
it
milked
was
dry.
Maybe it was the budget was too high for the box
Maybe.
office. Real
Maybe.
Steel.
I think there's maybe a Netflix animated show.
80 million budget, I believe. Give me a second. I need to go on the Wikipedia page. Sorry, the budget was 110 million. The box office was 300 million. So it made some money, but not
Made it,
enough to
yeah.
warrant. Because you have to basically double the budget to.
Yeah, for the marketing.
Yeah. So it probably made like 50 million, I would say. Probably not enough
But-
to warrant a sequel, but still decent enough.
I think probably decent enough, and maybe it's. I know it got big on streaming sites again a few years ago. Sure, made back in physical media. Like, give us a Real Steel 2, Real Steeler, Real. What's another metal? Tin.
Real tin, okay.
We're getting softer. We go to the softer metals.
But what was the
in
UK
the-
one?
Yes, the UK one. It is also not a scary movie.
Is it an animated movie?
No,
No?
but it is cartoony. The main
Cartoony.
it slapsticky-ish.
But there is no
It's a-
like CGI elements to it, no.
Like, there's no full CGI characters.
Okay,
Like, there would
okay.
be there's explosions, I assume.
2011, was that the year the Three Stooges was released? Could it be
It
the
could
Three?
be, but it's not. It's
No,
not the Three
okay.
Stooges. Think more of Spies.
Spies. Oh, Johnny English Returns.
Ooh,
Oh, no. Is it not Returns?
it's not Returns.
Johnny English
That's the
comes
third one.
back. I don't know.
No, Johnny English is reborn.
Oh, fuck. What is he reborn from? I don't understand.
I don't know.
It's been a while.
It's
that
been a very long time.
Is that the one with Bern Gorman from Torchwood? Was he in the second one?
Let me check the cast list here.
'Cause I know he's in one of them, but...
Gillian Anderson is in it. I'm not seeing him on the immediate cast.
Yeah, Bern Gorman played a character called Slater.
Nice.
I love
Bern Gorman.
I love it whenever he pops up into things. He was recently good in Beetlejuice. You should watch it.
I like it when he
It's
pops
fun.
up in things as well. I probably won't, because I don't enjoy Tim Burton. I don't enjoy modern Tim Burton.
You're no fun.
You know? Neither's modern Tim Burton.
Yeah, but Beetlejuice is pretty decent. It's fun. You'll have fun.
Yeah. I will maybe watch it if it comes to a streaming service and I have nothing else to do. But that is all I've got for On This Day. Us Brits were busy watching Johnny English Reborn. We would go see Johnny English Reborn at the cinemas, and then Monday would come, we'd go to school, we'd come home from school, and we would watch the Sarah Jane Adventures, The Curse of Clyde Langer. Except I didn't do that because I wasn't watching the show at this time. But
sadly, also, like, one of the final episodes, like, the next episode after this is the end, which is really depressing because Torchwood ended around the same time, like, just 2 weeks earlier as well, so... Torchwood got cancelled, and then Sarah Jane got cancelled, and we had to wait an entire year for more Doctor Who. Like,
it really was the beginning of the end of Doctor Who mania.
It was like I calculated how many episodes of Doctor Who there were every year before this, in terms of like spin-offs and all that. You know, in 2000, I've got it written down. I'm sorry, this is nerdy, but in 2005 we had 14 Doctor Who episodes. In 2006, we had 14 Doctor Who episodes and 11 Torchwood episodes, which count to 25 altogether. 25 episodes. That's insane to think about nowadays. In 2007, it was 6. In 2007, it was 14 Doctor Who's, 2 Torchwoods, and 12 Sarah Janes, which equals 28. In 2008, it was 14 Doctor Who's, 13 Torchwoods, and 12 Sarah Janes. 39 episodes that year. In 2009, it was 3 Doctor Who's, 5 Torchwoods, 12 Sarah Janes, which equals 20. In 2010, it was 15 Doctor Who's, 12 Sarah Janes, which equals 27. In 2011, which is the year we're covering, 14 Doctor Who's, 10 Torchwoods, 6 Sarah Janes, which equals 30 episodes. And then the next year, we just got 6 Doctor Who's. So we went from 30 to just
from
6.
From 30 to 6. That's crazy. Yeah.
How sad is that? I think this is definitely the end of me being a diehard Doctor Who fan, because it was gone for so long, and then it came back with Series 7, which wasn't the best, with just 5 episodes the next September. And then you had to wait until March. Like, sad times.
I remember the wait being hellish.
Sad times, man.
Sure.
And we'll never get that back. We'll never get 30 episodes a year again. How sad.
No, we're lucky to get 8. You know? That's brutal. That is brutal and depressing, and you've upset us all now, Scott. So cheer us up with some production stuff.
Yes, not too much for this episode. The writer is Phil Ford, who wrote probably about half of the series. The episode concept occurred at the Gallifrey convention in February 2009. Russell T Davies was, of course, present at this convention, and he said to Phil Ford in the meeting that they should do an episode on homelessness. Let's do an episode about a big after-school topic kind of special, you know. Because it would be something a bit different for Sarah Jane Adventures to tackle something that's real life. And Russell wanted the episode to centre on Clyde Langer because he felt that Daniel Anthony was a strong actor that they weren't doing enough with. He was always comic relief, but never too funny, you know. So
never, yeah.
Give him something dramatic to kind of do, and I think he handles this episode fairly well. Russell was the one to come up with the idea of him being cursed, and how he got cursed was devised by Phil Ford, and that's all I have in the history. So
interesting.
the concept was basically given to Phil Ford by Russell T Davies. So he was still heavily involved at this time of the series, which was nice.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, sadly, it's the second to last story of a series because, sadly, Elizabeth Sladen died of breast cancer like just 6 months before this episode aired. How tragic is that? I was
brutal.
devastated when I got that news. Just heartbroken, so sad. Just sudden, such a sudden shock. She was only like in her mid-60s, I want to say. It was really
It's
sad.
the classic Doctor Who curse.
Yeah.
Speaking of curses, you die young.
Terrible.
So many people involved in Doctor Who die young. It's brutal.
Well,
but
let's go on a happier
in
note and just cover the
news,
episode.
yeah.
Yes.
Let's dive into the curse of Clyde Langer, Part 1.
Where have you been? Just out? Why? You're always lying about where you've been, what you've been doing. No, Mum, more lies. Always lies.
Mum, whatever you're thinking, it's not real, okay? It's my name. You've seen my name on a letter. Somehow it's messing with your head.
Don't touch me. How can I ever trust you? Always skulking around, keeping secrets.
This isn't real. I haven't done anything.
I don't want you here. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to hear you. I know I feel like I've had my soul torn out of me.
I didn't do this. It's not my fault. Tell me what it is I've done. Tell me what I've lied. You can't, can you? You can't because it's all a trick. You've all been tricked. You, Sarah Jane, Ronnie, everybody.
Yeah, I was tricked, all right. Life tricked me the day you were born. I've had enough now and I want you out of here, out of my life.
No, you don't mean that. Mum, I love you. Please don't do this.
Police, open up!
Don't answer.
And you wonder why I want you out of my
I
life.
haven't done anything. It's the curse. It's taking everything over. He's through there.
Part 1 begins with the intro to the show, with your usual, I thought it was kind of like a whiplash start to this episode, because it starts with Clyde talking to the camera, being like, this is the Sarah Jane adventures, we go on lots of things, and then it cuts to the episode, which is Clyde looking at the camera, being all miserable, being like, do you remember when the thing happened? I'll never forget when the thing happened.
9/11. Not what you remember when 9/11 happened. That's basically the opening to the episode.
Yeah.
Except here it's about fish instead of 9/11.
It's about fish falling from the sky.
Similar.
And it's very, very, very. I'm sure that there was maybe some fish on the plane.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
some frozen dinners or something. So Clyde is looking into the camera all dramatically, saying he's never going to forget the day, and that opens us into the episode where we go into the classroom. It's like a study room, like a common area. He's at school.
Yeah, I think it's a study room. Yeah, one of those study rooms that I never went to because I hated everyone and everybody hated me. Everybody just bullied me, so I'm like, I'll just go home for study period. I'll just go home and watch Buffy.
Yeah, my study period was, oh, you mean the school day ends. This is where this is where I go home now.
Like that period in the middle of the day where school just ended for like 2 to 3 hours and I could just watch like 5 episodes of Buffy in a row. Classic.
Yeah. And we see that Clyde is busy studying away the French Revolution, to which Rani asks him a question as to how the French Revolution relates to the 2008 financial crisis. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rani? And she goes on. Go on.
Do you know the answer to this question? Because I asked ChatGPT. The parallels between the French.
What are the parallels?
The elites overplayed their hand. Massive wealth inequality leading to collapse. Loss of trust in institutions. Revolutionary consequences, and both were preventable but ignored, apparently, according to ChatGPT. I don't know how true it is, but...
That sounds relatively true. The only thing I want to know is what revolutionary consequence came from the 2008 crisis. All we did was bail out the bankers and keep going.
Well, you'll have to ask ChatGPT. I'm not going to answer that for you.
Yeah, goddamn. But it turns out that Clyde is not studying the French Revolution. He's studying how to be a fucking dork. 'Cause he's busy drawing a comic book. What's the name of his comic book again? Bullet
Susie
Man?
June.
The Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet.
The
but there's
Silver
a-
Bullet.
I think there's a character in it called Susie June Jones, which is obviously,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, Sarah Jane Smith's. And
Clyde is too fucking good at drawing. I'm sorry.
Clyde is he's an incredibly talented artist. It is unbelievable just how good, and like, you know, he's like what, 15? 16? Yeah. Like, I don't know. And sure, it's possible to be that good at that age. I knew people that were good at drawing when I was that age, but he is remarkably talented. His penmanship and ink work is incredible. Dude could drop out and get into art school straight away, you know?
like this art is better in like 95% of Doctor Who magazine art, you know? Like, most Doctor Who comics aren't this well drawn. It's insane.
Yeah. It is remarkably good, and everyone just kind of dismisses it, and they're just like, "Oh, well done, Clyde.
Yeah.
You're good. Well done." You know, they never really big him up with these shit. I'd be like,
I mean,
Clyde,
Sarah Jane does a good job of amping them up later. Until she gets cursed,
and then she's
you know?
and then she rips everything up and it's like, "I want to kill you, Clyde. You suck. You're the worst." But we then cut off to the school where we see Sarah Jane and her new alien daughter, because the belly button kid with no belly button isn't in this episode. He's gone. He's vanished. He's nowhere to be seen, and so she has a new child, and this one's not as cool.
Yeah, this is an alien character who came to Sarah Jane as a baby on Sarah Jane's doorstep. And then suddenly she aged 12 years overnight is a deal with her. And then she can also control electricity, I think. She does so in this scene. I don't remember too much about her because there was only 6 episodes with her in it. And she does nothing in these 2 episodes. So nothing's come into my mind.
Yeah, I didn't even know she existed. I didn't know this was a character in Sarah Jane. And so when she showed up and there was like a whole new character, I was like, what the fuck? I have no idea who this is, you know?
It does make sense to introduce like a 12-year-old into the cast again, because the kids in this show are like 22 at this point, you know? So bringing in a 12-year-old is to, you know, bring the series into the future, you know, we could have a good like 5 seasons with this kid, and I'm sure they did. I'm sure they planned it.
Tragic. But as the school interview's going on, which is going very well, the head teacher, Rani's dad, is like, "Wow, you're cool." A fish hits his window, and it's like, "Oh, someone's playing a tragic prank on me." But then everybody goes outside, and there's fish falling everywhere from the sky. Great big or regular sized fish just plopping down, and then we go into the intro credits. It would suck if that hit your head.
True, but you know, in most shows, you know, like in Doctor Who, the cold open cliffhanger would be, "Oh, a monster is attacking the city," or something like that. Here we get a terrible pun. "Now this looks dead fishy" from Clyde. Wonderful way to... Wonderful cliffhanger. Massive.
That's because Clyde's the best. He's funny. That's his thing. Why didn't Clyde say he was good at art in that clown episode? Remember, he was like, "My thing is I'm the funny guy. I say funny jokes." Maybe he just hadn't gained confidence.
I don't know.
In his passion.
I don't remember.
He's only just sharing it with people. You know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember if it was brought up before that, because that was season 2. That was Rani's first episode. So a very early episode in the run. So. Maybe it was just deceived in like season 3 or something. I don't know.
He's only just gaining the confidence. But we cut into the attic where Clyde makes some more fish jokes. I don't know if you want to go over them all. He's cast a wide net, fish pie recipes, etc., etc.
Wonderful.
They ask Mr. Smith to do a scan for anything alien and to keep an eye out, and he's like, "Hey, there's a museum thing going on with totem poles. This might be of relevance to you because there was some totem pole magic that made it rain fish in some story or some myth, however long ago. And they were like, cool, that gives us something to do.
There's also a weird joke where Sarah Jane overestimates the size of the fish.
Yeah, I don't get that. She was like, it was like this big.
It's really
and Clyde's
bizarre.
Like, what the fuck are you on about? And she's like, oh, I guess it wasn't. You know?
It comes out of nowhere. It just lands flat, like the fish. You know, it just there's no energy to the joke. It's really bizarre, and the music does not help. The music is fucking terrible in here.
I think the music's pretty bad across the entire episode. Maybe even the second episode as well. I don't really remember in the second episode, but there was not a moment where I was like, oh hell yeah, the soundtrack's kicking in now. You know, but it's a CBBC show. I don't really ever expect that.
It's on a very low budget. You know, it's well made for a very low budget. Like, this is also like the end of CBBC as a whole. Like, they never really went into other shows like this outside of like they did a show, Wizards vs. Aliens, which was also created by Russell D. Davis, which we'll also eventually cover someday, because there's an aborted Sarah Jane Adventures script in there that we just adapted into that show. But they never, you know, the budget for CBBC just gets lower and lower each year. Like, we're still threatening to put it online only, which is really fucking sad. It's depressing.
It
stuff.
is, but I like, kids just don't watch it now, I guess. People just don't watch TV that way. They're all on Netflix watching Stranger Things.
No, they're all on YouTube watching Mr. Beast and pregnant Elsa and Spider-Man videos.
I remember the pregnant Elsa saga.
Oh, Skibidi Toilet. That's what kids are really into these days. Skibidi Toilet.
I imagine that Skibidi Toilet is out of date now. That is like 5 years old at this point.
I've got a co-worker whose son just asked for like a Skibidi Toilet toy.
Interesting. So. Well, yeah, but maybe his son's not cool. Maybe his son's like lame as shit, you know?
Depressing times.
But anyway, they're walking down the street towards the museum, and Clyde is talked to by this young girl who asks for some change, and he gives her change because she's apparently homeless. Sarah Jane is with him. Sarah Jane sees this homeless teenager who's maybe the same age as Clyde, and is like, "Fuck you! I'm going into this museum. I don't want to help. I don't want to talk to you. Goodbye."
I don't think she actually sees her.
She just walks by her. She just pretends not to see her, you know?
Yeah.
She just goes in.
I mean, isn't that a metaphor for homeless people in general? Like, how often do you look at homeless people in the eyes? Do you ever
Constantly, and then I don't give them money.
I don't give homeless people money because I never fucking carry money, so I'm sorry.
I don't carry change, yeah.
Yeah, I carry my credit card. I'm not giving you my credit card, I'm sorry.
I think probably the biggest travesty, or not, well, the biggest travesty is just homelessness in general, but the push towards cashlessness is basically just, you know, removing that lifeline for loads of people.
Because if I was in Greg's and I got like £1.50 back, I'd give to homeless people. You know, I see homeless people on Union Street all the time, but I just never have cash. So
same. I've never got cash either. I remember once, actually, when I was a student, being asked by a homeless person for money. This was very late at night, and I was like, man, I got no cash on me. I pulled out my bank on my phone, and I had ATP in my bank account. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
You could have given him ATP.
Tough times. It's tough times out there. But I do want to say that the costume design for this homeless girl is terrible. She just looks like she's like clean and happy and healthy. She's got lovely shampooed hair. She's got nice clean clothes. She's like 100% done up. Like, it's like, are you homeless? I don't know.
It is a kid's show. You probably don't want to. I don't know. It is a very simplistic view of homeless people in this episode, but at the same time, I guess it's a decent view because, you know, when I was growing up, I would always see homeless people on like The Simpsons, where they were portrayed as like crazy people or, you know, stuff, or alcoholics. Like, this is a fairly
humanized
view of homeless people, at least. So It's a positive simplification, I guess. It's not a total stereotype.
But they go in to the museum and they look at all the weird totem poles. Clyde tries to finger it for some reason and gets a splinter when he sticks his finger in, which leads to him being yelled at by the lady that's in charge of the museum. And everyone like introduces themselves and are like, hey, well, you know, can you tell us about any curses from totem poles? And she's like, well, this totem pole has a dude in it. This totem pole's got like an evil guy who was all evil and did bad things in it, and everyone just kind of dismisses this information until later on.
In the original version, so there's been some edits to this episode since it first aired in 2011.
Ooh.
In the original version of the episode, they referred to it always as the Mojave totem pole from the Mojave Desert. And they made reference to that name about 3 or 4 different times, but it turns out the Mojave tribe did not make totem poles. So when this episode was being put up on BBC iPlayer, I believe the writer of the episode, Phil Ford, was like, is there any way we could make edits to this episode to be more historically accurate? And it turned out that the current post-production manager for Doctor Who happened to be the editor of this episode, and he had the original files on his computer. So he was able to just go in and cut out those like 3 words from the episode, and it's a seamless edit because obviously he had the original files on hand. You wouldn't notice. But you know, like that's fair enough of an edit. It doesn't make any difference to the episode. It's more historically accurate. Fair enough. I don't mind that kind of edit.
Sure. Yeah, that's whatever. I don't mind. I don't mind that kind of edit either. Speaking of edits, what's that episode called?
Oh, Fear Her. Fear Her came back.
Fear Her. Yes.
It came back again.
I'm glad you could psychically read my mind. It's back. It's back with a new edit. It took them a very long time to do a very minor edit. It
took them about 6 months, I believe.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But I believe you can still hear Hugh Edwards in the background of some scenes. I guess they couldn't go in and do new audio for that because I guess they only just had the original file for it. They didn't have the raw file, so you can still hear him if you really pay attention. You can still hear Hugh Edwards, which is what everybody wants to hear. Good man.
Sure.
Not at all.
I think he's a terrible guy for sure. I think it's a bit of an overreaction to edit the entire episode to cut out like a 3-second scene, not even. But heyo, you know.
It is what it is. I understand the change. We've talked about it before. I understand the change for sure.
But the scene continues onward with Clyde he's had a splinter. He's like, ow, my finger is very sore. But then everybody leaves the museum. He goes home to see his mum. And his mum's like, oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just have a little bit of trivia for the lady who gives the history about the totem pole here. Is played by Sarah Houghton, and her dad wrote 2 Doctor Who episodes starring John Pertwee in 1970, The Mind of Evil, and also Inferno. So that's a cool little trivia. You know, her dad wrote some Doctor Who episodes.
Everybody's related to Doctor Who in some way. With the scene with his mum is really basically just to establish his mum as a character and be like, see, she loves him very much, so that when we next see her and she's all angry and hateful towards him, we feel that emotional impact. We see Clyde working on his comic some more. I actually want to read it because I haven't stopped to read it. I want to read some of his dialogue. Stupid reporter sticking your nose in where it ain't wanted. The boss will want to talk to her, see how much she's found out about the assassination attempt. Let me go, you idiots. My editor knows where I am. Ooh, color me scared, girly. You're gonna get used. Oof. You okay, miss? Can I get an exclusive? The whole world wants to know about you. Sorry, not tonight, because I've realized my work can't stop. It's never done, because everywhere I go, there's always trouble. hang on, it's hard to read. There's someone in trouble, someone who needs saving, and the bad guys need to realize every crook is a target in Blood River City.
Whoa.
And then I want them to release a full-on comic.
They should.
They should, absolutely. The Silver Bullet. Bit of a generic name.
It is, yes. But Clyde basically finishes off the comic book. He goes to bed, and everything with his name on it glows up because that's the start of a curse. His name is now cursed. Much simpler of a curse than in Doctor Who's 73 Yards, by the way, because if we go back in time to 1 year ago when we watched 73 Yards, the Doctor stepped into the fairy circle, and somehow Ruby was the one to get cursed. And then the curse had her future self follow her young self around, and if anybody spoke to her future self, they start hating Ruby. See how complicated it is compared to this? Clyde says his name. Everybody starts hating him. Easy to write,
It made me think, Clyde's name is plastered over his room. There are so many things in his room that say his name, and I was trying to think, do I have anything in my room? I've got a few things.
Yeah,
documents, my passport and stuff, but he's got things on the wall,
two of them are school certificates.
Yeah.
Most of it is artwork he's done with his signature at the bottom, so that makes more sense. It's not like his name is just randomly plastered everywhere. It makes sense.
Just writing it all over. Clyde Langer.
Yeah.
And then he goes in to see Sarah Jane, and I think this is my favorite scene across both episodes. I think this is the strongest scene in them, and I think it's the best performance that I've seen either of them give across the entire series. Sarah Jane is legitimately terrifying in this episode.
Yeah, she is.
Because Clyde goes in to show her the comic book now that it's done, and she starts to like it. She's like, oh, this is nice, until she reads Clyde Langer's name at the bottom, and Clyde is like, yeah, your son's a dork. I hate him.
Clyde sets off the curse in this scene because he's like, look out, Stanley. Here comes Clyde Langer, or something like that. So he sets off the curse here. But Sarah Jane is very supportive of Clyde in this scene. She's like, oh, you could really have a career in this. And then Clyde's like, it's the only thing I'm good at. And then Sarah Jane's like, no, you're bright, Clyde. You're bright, even though he's a dumbass in every fucking episode we've seen him in.
But he's the funny one. He says all those funny jokes.
Does he?
But when the curse hits, she starts to get really slowly annoyed at she's like, why'd you say that thing about my son? Why do you keep saying those horrible things? It's really starting to tick me off and get me, and she just slowly escalates, and it really feels like she's telling him off. She's just getting madder and madder and madder as she's going, and Clyde's just befuddled the entire time. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you being so weird? And eventually she just starts fucking yelling at him and is like, you want crazy? How about I kill you? How about I kill you right now, Clyde? I'm gonna kill you. She grabs her sonic lipstick.
She tries to kill him with her sonic lipstick, and then later on in the episode she tells Mr. Smith to kill him if he ever enters Bannerman Road again. She wants to murder him.
She does. She just wants him off the face of the planet, please. But Clyde immediately runs out, and he sees Rani and her dad. Her dad, being the head teacher of the school, is like, well, Clyde Langer sets off the curse. They both just start yelling and berating him immediately, stay away from my daughter, you freak, get back, go away, we don't like you, we hate you. I think this scene drags on a little bit longer than it should. Just fuck off, Clyde. If you're they're telling you to just be like, okay, whatever, you don't need to repeat, why are you doing this 8 times,
This episode is too repetitive in its beats, because we also get the later, the next scene is Sky going into the attic in her school uniform, etc., and she mentions Clyde's name. Sarah Jane gets really angry about it, And then Sky is like, why are you so angry with Clyde, etc. And then she does that about 3 different times throughout the story.
The rest of the scenes in this episode are people getting mad at Clyde when he says his name, or so. The rest of the episode is that, which is a lot of fun. It's that classic, children's show pacing where you've set up now basically the bad thing. We're gonna go into the bad thing, the start of the next episode, and solve it by the end. It's two-parter. It's whatever. But this episode's not quite done yet. We have got a bald man, a bald person to try and beat up Clyde.
So this kid is supposed to be like 17 years old, but he's played by a 25-year-old who also looks like a 37-year-old, who also is completely bald except for 2 sideburns at the side of his face. Weird look.
Yeah, it is a weird look, but he's like a bully. He's like a classic bully, So, the episode continues with this bald kid, going up and having some chats with Clyde, where he's like, life's shit, isn't it? Ha ha. Anyway, I'll tell people how cool you are, Clyde. I'll be like, my friend Clyde Langer is super cool. Wait a minute. Oh shit, I'm gonna fuck you up.
This is the only one that doesn't work in the episode for me, other than the museum lady. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if this guy doesn't like Clyde anymore, because I don't know this guy. He's in The Day of the Clown, which we've covered, but I don't remember anything he does in that episode, and I have no context to his character as a whole, so I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but him and all of his mates start squaring up to him, ready to fight. They smash his phone, and they're like, "We're gonna do that to you."
He was on the phone to Luke. Luke now hates him as well.
Of course, yeah.
As you said, the best acting Luke has done this entire series.
It is. It's worth going in and watching that scene just for Luke's performance, because he's pretty incredible in it. But he gets chased down the streets of London that he's in before hiding behind some bins and escaping the bullies in our high-paced action sequence from the episode. And he makes his way back to the museum almost instantly.
You made a very good observation about Clyde's running. His arms are really fucking noodly, and they just kind of
like
he kind of does the motion you do whenever you floss, because everybody flosses. With their arms.
Another relevant reference you're making.
A very relevant reference. Oh god.
You're
do kids floss anymore? I
Probably like young ones, I imagine.
God, what a world.
They inside the museum, Clyde's examining the totem pole, and he's like, "Hey, museum lady, you're still here. You remember me? I'm Clyde Langer, in case you forgot." Just kidding. She doesn't say his name. She just knows it. And he's like, "Are there any curses that totem poles have put on people?" And she's like, "Well, there's a very famous one on the U.S. presidents, the curse of Tippecanoe."
Yep.
Tippecanoe.
Tippecanoe. I only know that pronunciation because there's a They Might Be Giants cover of because obviously when Tippecanoe, the President William Henry Harrison, his nickname was Tippecanoe, and when he was elected, there was a song to go along with his election. It was like a political song, and They Might Be Giants did a cover of that political song. It plays on my Spotify playlist all the time. Good song.
Yeah. So you and I both were clever and we're like, let's get some research on what this is. You've granted me with the great honor of being able to read out my version of the notes. Hopefully they're the same as yours. So what is the curse of Tippecanoe? Because I was curious when she was like, it's a curse on U.S. presidents. I was like, what the fuck? I've not heard of this before. So the curse of Tippecanoe, also known as Tecmuse? Tecumseh's curse? Tecumseh is a legend claiming that every U.S. president elected in a year ending in 0 every 20 years from 1840 to 1960 died in office. The curse is named after the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811, where William Henry Harrison defeated the forces of Shawnee leader Tecumseh and his brother Tenskwatawa, the prophet. The legend suggests that Tenskwatawa, angered by the loss, placed a curse on Harrison and his successors. So, the presidents that were affected by this curse is quite remarkable. William Henry Harrison in 1840 died of pneumonia in 1841, just 32 days into his term. Abraham Lincoln, elected in 1860, was assassinated in 1865. James A. Garfield, elected in 1880, got assassinated in 1881.
I bet you it was on a Monday.
William McKinley, elected in 1900, was assassinated in 1901. God, U.S. presidents loved getting assassinated. Warren G. Harding in 1920 had a heart attack in 1923 and died. Franklin D. Roosevelt, elected in 1940, died of a cerebral hemorrhage in 1945. And John F. Kennedy, elected in 1960, was assassinated in 1963. I don't think so. I think his head. I think his head just did that. His head just did that. So after Kennedy, the pattern breaks with Ronald Reagan, who was elected in 1980, surviving an assassination attempt in 1981 and ending the curse by living. Fucking Ronald Reagan, of all people. George W. Bush was elected in 2000 and had no assassination attempts except for that time when a guy threw a shoe at him. And Joe Biden, elected in 2020, he had no assassination attempts either, although his brain died in office.
But yeah, terrible fact. I would say fun fact, but it's not a fun fact. The battle that William Henry Harrison led injured 130 Native Americans and murdered around 50 to 80 more. Depressing as fuck.
Yeah, very cool.
Harrison burned down the village of Tippecanoe when he won. He also had the village cemetery dug up and the corpses left out. Cool guy.
That's my president.
All around. What cool
That's
guy.
my president.
Jesus Christ, American history is just grim.
What happened? You don't see many Native Americans anymore. Where'd they all go? What?
Fucking awful.
Yes. So this is the curse of Tippecanoe, which you could say, is it a real curse or is it just a coincidence? I would say it's probably just a coincidence because America is a very tumultuous land and a very politically divided land, and always has been. So there's always going to be presidents getting assassinated. I mean, we almost had one like last year. You know?
American history for such a young country is only like 248 years old, right?
There's pubs older than that country.
Like, fucking hell, the building I live in is probably older than that country. Like, what a depressing fucking place, man.
Yeah. You know, they're figuring it out. They're figuring it out. But that is the curse of Tippecanoe, which is, I think, a very interesting little bit of trivia that I learned watching this episode. But the episode then continues on with Sarah Jane coming in and being like, "Fuck Clyde Langer, you should beat him up right now."
Well,
why did she even go in? She's just hunting him down.
No, she's about to do an investigation piece.
Oh yeah, she said to her daughter. Yeah. Yes.
But somehow this lady is like, "Oh yes, I remember your name, Clyde Langer, the guy she met 24 hours ago." For like 2 minutes, she just randomly remembers his full name.
She's a fan of the Silver Bullet. She's a fan of the Silver Bullet. But yeah, it gets him kicked out of the museum as the homeless lady from earlier watches on, and he's like, "Well, fuck this, I'm just gonna go home then. There's nothing that can go bad there if I go home." And this is where he meets his mum again, who's been reading some post with his name on it, and I guess maybe said his name out loud. Be like, Clyde Langer.
I think it
My
activates
son.
when you read the name as well.
Yeah, you just see
Yeah.
the words Clyde. But this is a pretty heartbreaking scene, I guess.
is, yes.
Where she describes it as having her soul ripped out of her body. Like, she just can't stand to look at Clyde. She doesn't want him in the house. She can't explain why. She's just like, you're dead to me. You're not my son. I hate you. Basically, and I think little Clydey boy does a good job here. I think he carries both episodes pretty well as a main.
Yeah, he is a good actor. He is a good actor. As we said, he just hasn't really had the chance to dig his teeth into the acting side of the role before. Here he is, just doing his best,
Yeah.
Is his name Anthony Daniels or Daniel Anthony? I always get those two mixed up because one of those two is C-3PO from Star Wars. He has the same name but backwards.
It's Daniel Anthony is Clyde Langer.
But the scene, of course, was echoed again in 73 Yards with Ruby's mum, with the same name. Coincidentally enough, they're both called Carla. How crazy is that? The same scene, pretty much, like 16 years later. Incredible.
That's crazy. And Clyde himself, the police show up to the door for some reason.
Yeah, so Sarah Jane phones the police, but I'm not sure why they would make an urgent call for this 17-year-old boy to chase him around in his home to arrest him. Like, if an old lady randomly complains about a 17-year-old, that's we'll get around to it if we have the time.
Oh no, because she's cursed. I was about to say, if she phones him up and she's like, Clyde Langer, get him, but she can't say his name.
No.
So, who knows?
Maybe, oh no, she didn't. If she picked up the phone while the lady was saying Clyde Langer, maybe they got cursed that way, but I think she picks up the phone after Clyde leaves the building, so... Plot hole. Yeah. I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Got them. But Clyde escapes the police and walks back onto Bannerman Road, which he should be dead. If Mr. Smith did his job, he should be dead right now. But he looks over at Randy's house and Sarah Jane's house, and we get some cheesy voiceover as he remembers, like, oh, what good friends we were before the curse happened. But it's a kid's show. They need to do stuff like that for the kids to understand, And then Clyde's bank gets really weird. I don't quite understand what's going on with the bank.
He goes up to the ATM machine, he puts in his PIN, and then suddenly the screen just says Clyde Langer over and over again. This is the same ATM machine, I believe, as the Runaway Bride when the doctor needs some money, so he just sonics the ATM machine and loads of cash comes out. I fucking wish that was real. Could you imagine if you had that ability? Incredible.
Oh my god. Yeah, that would be super nice. But Clyde doesn't get any money, and he goes off wandering the streets again, and then suddenly it starts to rain on him, like torrential rain on him. Like the type of rain that you only see in movies on top of him, and he's got nowhere to go. He kicks and bangs a door before just collapsing down into sadness, but then the homeless lady shows up again, and she's like, come with me if you want to live. And he goes with her, takes her hand, and that's the end of the episode. A pretty straightforward, simple episode,
A very simple episode, and I think it needs to be simple, and I think I like the way the curse develops in this episode more than 73 Yards, because it fucking makes sense so far,
Yeah, it's you can follow it, and it's gonna have a conclusion that makes sense as well, as far as like any curse can make sense.
Like I'm more invested in the drama of Clyde being homeless than I am with Ruby being homeless, because with Ruby being homeless, I'm just confused as fuck about the whole curse element. Whereas here, the curse is kind of like in the background. It's very simple. It's just Clyde on his own. Fair enough. That's all you need.
Yeah, and it's pretty good stuff. But we're going to jump straight in to part 2, so don't go anywhere, because The Curse of Clyde Langer continues on from here, and it only gets pretty much the same level of quality. It doesn't. I don't think that we've passed the peak. The peak was the Sarah Jane scene. Now it's just kind of steady until it ends.
Okay.
So, what if the fish was some sort of sign that something bad was coming? like Mystic Mag said.
Worse than the Night Dragon.
Yeah, really bad.
I've been through bad stuff in my life. Maybe it doesn't matter now.
I don't understand.
2 years I've been telling myself, I'll get off the street. I'll get on some sort of scheme. Get a job, get a flat. Get my life back. Meet a nice boy. That was my dream. Now it's starting to come true.
So, episode 2 of The Curse of the Clyde of the Langer begins, except it doesn't begin because we have 2 montages and the intro to get through. It takes about a minute and a half. It's kind of ridiculous.
We get the whole welcome to 13 Bannerman Road where it's top secret, but I'm telling you for no reason. And then we get the previously on, and then we get the theme song, which is very short for it's like a 15-second theme song. So it's not too bad, but...
It's you could make a cup of tea and be ready for this. It's pretty okay. I was about to say something in relation to it, and it's kind of left my head what I was about to say. Oh yeah, the rest of the episode is basically also just a recap, because we spent a large part of this episode just going over stuff that we went over last episode. I guess in case you didn't see last week's episode. So the first half is just going over the curse again and what that means, and then the next half is like fixing it.
Yeah, a lot of this episode is reiterating the same 3 or 4 points over and over again with like Sky and shit like that. Like it's very repetitive. That's the one weakness of the episode, but hey, it is what it is.
But the episode opens for real with Clyde waking up in a homeless camp under the bridge with the homeless teenage girl that saved him, and she's all a little bit sassy with him.
Clyde is very clean, very dry.
Everyone's clean. It's a very clean establishment they're in.
Good for them.
Yeah. And she basically just gives him a rundown of like, hey, I've been homeless for ages. People are homeless here. You don't understand. You don't know how lucky you are. And she's like, what's your name? And he's like, I'm Enrico Box, because he looks at a pizza box from Enrico's that's right behind her. Yeah. And she looks at him. I'm glad that she doesn't ever once believe him that's his name. She just looks at him like, okay, so you're not telling me your name. I get it, right?
like Clyde could have easily just been like, my name is Luke Smith. Easy.
Yeah. My name is any name except my actual name.
Yes.
My
name is Clint Longer. Clint Longer.
My name is Clyde Kanger. We go to Sarah Jane, and she does the exact same scene she did with her daughter again, where she's like, don't talk about Clyde, I hate you, I'm going to the museum.
Yeah, she also rips up even more artwork of Clyde's in the attic. Clyde leaves a lot of his fucking artwork in his attic, in her attic.
Yeah, it's just leaving shit about
Messy
the place,
boy.
Security guard sees lightning come out off the totem pole, and he just fucking runs out the door, and I'm like, that's 100% the right thing to do. Just be like, nah, fuck that. I don't want to be involved in this.
Yes, and any other like sci-fi show, like the guard
would get closer to it, you'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Like if you see lightning coming out, I guess everybody kind of technically perhaps knows about aliens in this universe, maybe. The Earth gets invaded every week at this point, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But nobody ever mentions the events of, like, Miracle Day, which just happened, where everybody on Earth
It's collective trauma.
Die.
Everybody just hushes about it. They're just like, let's just not talk about that, We'll just move on. We'll just move past it. Keep going. But we go back to Clyde, and what is the name of this lady? It's totally not in my head.
Oh, it starts with an E. Eliza?
Enrico Box.
No, it's...
It's possibly Eliza, because she gives a fake name as well. It's based off some
Elizabeth, Eliza. I can
show
look at the
that's
end
happening.
credits. 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Ellie. It's Ellie.
Ellie.
I was close.
But she goes on to tell him more about who she is and how her parents, one of them died and the other one just abandoned her, and she became homeless because of it, and she's been homeless for 2 years, and there's dragons. There's a night dragon that comes by and steals people, and nobody knows where they go. They just vanish on the night dragon.
I will give this episode some props. It does do a good job of explaining to kids, hey, sometimes homeless people become homeless through no fault of their own. You know, it's just sometimes life happens. Sometimes they get kicked out of their house, like Clyde did. It's very educational in that way of humanizing homeless people. It's very good. But there is one aspect of this episode that is pretty yikes, but we'll get to there.
We then get told some straight up lies about school dinners, as Rani says school chips are the best chips, which is just not true.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
school
every
chips-
fucking kid would be like, McDonald's chips are the best chips, you know, like McDonald's. You know, that's something that most people can agree on, McDonald's. But school chips? Whoever liked school chips? What the fuck are you talking about?
School chips had a certain like sogginess.
Yeah,
That I guess is kind of appealing, you know, like they were kind of floppy and wet.
you like
which is
floppy
what you
wet
want.
things.
I love them. I love them.
You can't even complete my sentence. You love floppy wet things, says
I
Matthew.
love them. I love floppy wet things in my mouth. Flop them about.
I hope everybody quotes that in the comments. I just want to see that in the comments. Matthew 2025. I love floppy wet things.
Who doesn't?
Genius.
What's the daughter's name? This young
Sky.
child was
Sky.
Sky is the only one who knows stuff's up, and she mentions Clyde again, which annoys Rani, and she storms off away. It's kind of a repetition for
Yes.
Sky here. It takes her quite a while to figure out that whenever I say Clyde, people get upset with them.
Yeah,
you know?
she keeps walking around and she's like, why does everybody get so angry when I ever say, like, talk to Mr. Smith? I don't know. Like, Mr. Smith would understand more than anybody else. Just talk to Mr. Smith. That's the only solution. But I guess she does say Mr. Smith doesn't like her getting too close in case.
Yeah, because she's got electric powers or something.
Yeah, or something. I don't remember.
Sarah Jane is doing some Sarah Jane stuff with the totem pole, where she's like investigating why it's suddenly shooting out electric, and she's like, it's weird, it's doing alien things now, what's going on with it, you should shut the museum. And we see some glowing eyes in the totem pole as well, which they don't look terrible. They look better than the fucking face that shows up later on. As this curse continues to grow.
Pause at 702, just below the face. There's kind of like another face. It's kind of like like a straight lined mouth and two eyes. Like just an unimpressed face. It's kind of funny.
It's a good face. It's a good face with very small nipples. We see Clyde and Ellie begging for change in just some random street because they want to get food. They don't actually get any change, and then they're like, let's go get food. They go to the
homeless shelter. But this scene again, it gives kids a decent lesson of, hey, people ignore homeless people. Maybe the next time you see a homeless person, just give them some change. Which again, I'm not gonna fucking do because I don't carry change. Sorry.
I don't have change. I'm sorry. Can I pay contactless? Have you got? We then cut to Sarah Jane, who's mourning something in her chair. She's just sobbing quietly, and she's
I think this is afternoon. It feels like afternoon. You said morning.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It took me a minute to realize what the fuck.
Sorry, Clyde Langer hasn't done a joke in a while, so I've done a Clyde Langer kind of joke.
She's like, it feels like I'm missing something, but I don't know what. You know, like she's mourning the loss of Clyde without being able to realize what it is. We then go to the homeless shelter where we get the worst scene probably in the episode.
Yeah.
With generic mystical homeless / gypsy lady.
Yes,
you know?
Mystic Mags, which is a fucking terrible stereotype of the homeless, which I was kind of alluding to earlier, kind of the crazy stereotype of the homeless people, which is quite sad to see for an episode that does a fairly decent job of humanizing homeless people. I'm not a fan of mystic characters in Doctor Who in general, like the lady on the bus in Planet of the Dead or stuff like that. I'm just not a fan of characters who sit around and goes, ooh, something spooky's happening in the future. It gets tiresome.
Yeah. I mean, psychics are 100% canon in Doctor Who.
True.
So it's like a phenomenon. I'm not a huge fan of that fantasy element either. I much prefer it to be rooted in some sort of science fiction reason, other than just magic. Magic did it. I never find that as a satisfying answer, you know.
And then this lady also does nothing to the plot. She goes on about the night dragon, and she knows Clyde is cursed, but she doesn't help Clyde with the curse or give him any information about how he got cursed. She's just there to be mystic. I don't understand the point of this character. It's very bizarre. She is played by Angela Pleasance, who is the child of Donald Pleasance, who is most famous for playing Loomis in the Halloween movies. And this actress also played Queen Elizabeth I in the Shakespeare Code just a few years ago, just a few years before this episode. So, yeah. A big name for Sarah Jane Adventures in a way.
yeah. But Clyde and that leave, and Clyde's like, my name's not Enrico Box, you've got to get away from me. And they get accosted by some skateboarding teens. Loser, they say as they skate by, but it's okay because it's an excuse for Clyde and Ellie to stand close to each other and be like, oh, we're flirting kind of. There's maybe something here, ooh la la. We get some more dumb CGI eyes from the totem pole. It literally cuts there for like 1 second. Like it's such a brief cutaway.
But the chemistry between Daniel Anthony and Lily Lovelace, who is an actress best known for the E4 show Skins. Think sexy adult show for teenagers like Torchwood, that kind of show, which we don't see much of these days. But she was best known for Skins.
Streaming services hidden in an algorithm that you don't get to see because it doesn't appeal to you, you know.
But hey, these two have decent chemistry. They're both good actors. They have enough chemistry for you to care enough about these two in some way. You know, they're not bad.
No, it works. It works pretty well. I believe it. I don't hate it either. I'm not like, oh, you two shouldn't get together.
Yeah.
You know. We get a scene with Rani, which is basically the same scene we just saw with Sarah Jane.
Yes.
Where she's like, I feel like I'm mourning something and I don't know what it is, but it's well performed. And then we get the same scene again.
She's a good actress.
Yeah. She is very good. I think most people acting in this episode, the acting's good in this episode. The 2 episodes, very strong performances.
Yeah, the weakest performer is probably the kid who plays Sky, but she's given a decent kid's performance. So I can't really complain about any of the acting, really. Yeah.
We get a repeat scene again of Sky going to visit Clyde's mum. Yeah. Why is Clyde's mum letting this random little girl into her house? Does she know who she is?
Well, she does mention, hey, have you met Luke yet? Sarah Jane, blah, blah, blah.
Sure, okay.
So she knows who Sky is. She's probably met her before, maybe. I don't know. But, it is weird to invite your kid's friend over without your kid in the home. Just a general conversation with this 12-year-old. Sure.
Yeah, I'll just chat with you. Let's just hang out, you know, do some tea and just chill. But she brings up Clyde's name again, and that again sets off the mother into angry, sad frenzy, and then Sky finally connects the dots and is like, oh my god, it's when people say Clyde's name that the curse happens. Wow.
It
And
took her 4 or 5 conversations with people to connect the dots here.
Yeah.
Insane.
And then we cut to the totem pole, and it's now got a full face on the face. There's like a weird CGI overlaid face on it, which looks fine. It doesn't look great, but it's a very brief shot, so don't worry about it. And we then head into the second half of this episode, where they're going to try and solve the curse. Will they do it, or will it all end in disaster? I bet they do it.
Yeah, I bet you Clyde dies or something. That seems like something Sarah Jane Adventures would do. Kill off one of the main characters.
Well, there's only a few episodes left.
True.
You can take bold risks like that, you know?
Off we go.
Yes. So the episode continues with Clyde and Ellie camping out under a bridge at nighttime. And they're like, wow, it's cold. And Clyde's like, it's okay, I'll burn my comic books. And he burns it to set the fire, which is a nice little character thing.
It is,
you know,
yes.
he cares for Ellie more than he cares for his art. He can always draw more pictures, you know.
Yeah, it's a nice little arc for Clyde in this episode for sure. Like there's actual maturity within this character that we've never seen before. It's a nice. You can imagine this could be like one of his final episodes where he's finally about to go off of a show, and you know you can just write the character off at this point because it feels like it's a natural conclusion to his character.
I mean.
Yeah, true.
We keep coming back to the goddamn totem pole, and it's now just a CGI mess of blobbing faces. It looks terrible. It looks atrocious. It's really bad. It's goofy. It's goofy and silly. But it's fine because it's a goofy show, you know.
But also, like, the faces all go like, meh. It's not threatening. It's goofy more than threatening. It's weird.
It is extremely goofy. And then we get to a scene with Sarah Jane and Rani and Sky and Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And it goes on for fucking ever. This scene goes on for ages. And this is where Sky is just trying to prove that they are cursed and that how to break the curses by saying Clyde's name. And like they have to get a lot of information out to all these characters in this scene. But they really repeat themselves over and over and over again.
They even show clips from like even 2 minutes ago. Like it just reiterating the same point that's been going on for like the last 45 minutes, which is a shame. It's really a shame that we couldn't find anything interesting to do with these characters when they start hating on Clyde. It's just the same repetitive scenes. Like I would rather have more scenes with Clyde and the girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like expand on that. Expand on like the whole homelessness angle of the story, instead of just coming back to these characters and just going over the same points. It's very repetitive.
It does, but eventually they break the curse by holding hands and forcing themselves to say Clyde's name, and then they're like, holy shit, we need to get Clyde right now so that we can end this episode. They wrap things up.
They really do.
In 5 minutes. 5 minutes. They solve the problem, end of the episode.
Because, you know, like we're 16 minutes into the episode, there's like 10 minutes left, and just conveniently both Rani and Sarah Jane are just sitting in the attic and being like, hey, it feels like there's something missing from our life. What's going on? Like, how convenient.
And we get a really sweet scene next with Clyde and Ellie, where Clyde draws a picture of Ellie and he's like, we could make money doing this. We'll go to the park, we'll do some drawings, we'll give people portraits, and we'll work on earning our way off the streets here. And Ellie's
to be fair, with that level of drawing ability,
he's
that's
good.
A fucking really good plan. Like he could probably make like £50 a day off of that. Incredible.
Yeah, he's good. He is a very good artist. And Ellie's very taken by this, and she just looks at him and gives him a kiss, and it's very sweet, and it's very believable. You really believe the relationship that these two have been building. And then she goes off to go get something, do something.
She's like, let's celebrate, let's get some coffee. And she goes, she walks off for like she's like
Walks out of the episode.
Yeah, she's like 2 meters away, and then Sarah Jane and the gang run up to Clyde.
They're like, we have to go right now, Clyde. Right this fucking second. No waiting. No just running real quick to the coffee shop to get your friend. You know?
Yeah,
you need to go right now.
Like, you could easily just wait, like, 3 minutes at most, you know? It's not that
just go
urgent.
to the... Just be like, okay, we can go. My friend's around the corner. Give me a sec. And go yourself to grab her so you don't have to wait. You know?
Or even just be like, hey, wait here. And then run back to the car, you know?
Yeah. Sarah Jane is impatient in this scene. Like, really. Like, she's so, like, short and impatient with Clyde. I was like, are you still cursed? Do you still hate Clyde?
To be fair, she doesn't really know that he's been homeless and just fallen in love with a homeless girl. So she's not really... Like, at no point Clyde is ever like, hey, there's a homeless girl. I have to be here for her because, you know, it's unpredictable where she'll be. She's like, oh, but I have to tell my friend. Like... Tell your friend.
It's the annoyance of a lot of dramas and TVs where things would be solved if people just spoke to each other.
Yes.
Instead, they just withhold important information for no reason, you know? But they end up going back to the attic where the totem pole teleports into the attic, or they get the totem pole and teleport it to the attic.
Mr. Smith teleports the totem pole into the attic, which feels weird. He could have just gone back to the museum. Maybe they couldn't afford the set for another day. Maybe we could.
But also, if Mr. Smith could teleport the fucking totem pole, why is there a rush?
Yeah, exactly. There's no rush. Really bizarre.
But Clyde just gives it a big hug and says his name over and over again as a way of defeating.
Which doesn't really make sense because the whole point of the curse is that Clyde is going to be isolated and cannot break the curse if he's isolated. But if he can break the curse just by hugging the totem pole and saying his name over and over again, he doesn't need to be isolated for that to happen. It doesn't make sense, but it's still...
Don't worry about
it. It still makes more sense than... Let's go up. Let's figure out what the 73 yards... How they broke the curse in 73 yards. The curse was broken because Ruby stepped 73 yards away from the Prime Minister man, the evil Prime Minister man in that episode. And the lady whispers something to the evil Prime Minister man. The Prime Minister man runs away, but that doesn't break the curse quite yet. She lives until she's an old lady. Like 50 years pass by. She's on her deathbed. And then when she's dying, she travels back in time to the moment where the doctor caused the curse, and she's able to somehow convince the doctor from 73 yards away to not step into the circle, and that breaks the curse? That makes no sense. This makes more sense.
That makes sense. It makes sense. Like, curses just don't make sense inherently because they're magic and aren't real.
This one makes sense if you don't... I just thought of it, like... just 2 minutes ago, that doesn't make sense, but it makes more sense than Doctor Who did, so I give it points for that. It makes more sense.
It's pretty good. And then Clyde reunites with his mum in a very sweet little scene where they hug and everybody's like, oh, Clyde, we love you, you're the best, and he's like, I've got to go look for my girlfriend now. And we get a short scenes of him looking around, not finding anything. And then we finally see the dragon.
You forgot that Sarah Jane comes to the conclusion that homeless people exist. And she's like, I just can't believe, after all the things we've seen, the most alien world of all is right here. And no one knows because we don't want to. Anyway, I'm just going to go off in the next episode and never think about homeless people ever again.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insolvable problem, you know. There's been homeless people as long as there's been homes.
True. Oh, I've reminds me of some Twitter exchanges I've seen where if COVID exists, or if COVID exists in the Doctor Who universe or something like that, the Doctor should be able to cure COVID or cure cancer. And why doesn't the Doctor ever cure cancer? Like, why didn't the Doctor ever cure Graham's cancer? She could go off into the future. Like,
it's a fixed event in time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's too awkward to deal with cancer. That's just like
True.
don't want it. Don't.
I'm just gonna go over here.
I'm just shut up. But we see that the Night Dragon is a haulage company, and then some random guy shows up to deliver exposition.
Yeah.
Where he's like, people get on it sometimes to travel to different cities to try and start a new life. And then he walks away. And then they're like, oh my god, she's just gone, there's no Ellie, there's nothing, and Clyde is left sitting in his bed looking at a drawing of Ellie, trying to remember her, and it does feel like they're setting up, it's kind of a sad note to almost end the series on.
Yes.
You know?
It really is. But it's a really decent way to end the episode. I like that there's no happy ending here. It's like, hey,
yeah,
I had to sacrifice something to save the world. I had to sacrifice like my first romance in the show. That's kind of sad. That's a character growth moment for Clyde. I'm pretty satisfied with this episode. It's not the best writing, but hey, it's a kids show. I'm probably grown out of it. I have grown out of it, but it's not, again, compared to like most other kids shows, I've seen much worse. This is pretty decent. It's a pretty decent message about the homelessness problem. Maybe I would hope some kids took a lesson from this. Like, hey, homeless people, it's not always their fault. That's a nice little lesson to kind of put into kids' heads. That's a nice lesson there. Yeah,
it is, and it's a fun little episode, little two-parter as well. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It flew by. I thought the performances were good. It's a solid episode of Sarah Jane. It's a really fun time. It holds up pretty well, you know. I thought it was pretty great. But that brings us in here to what is coming up next week, because we are super behind schedule, entirely my fault, life is chaos. Our next episode is not going to be Kerblam as previously promised. That's been pushed to a later time in the year, probably. We're not going to be visiting Chibnall again now for a little bit. Very sad about that.
Hooray!
Personally quite devastated by that. And instead, our next episode will be looking at Rose, as it is coming up to the 20th anniversary of the return of Doctor Who in 2005. So we thought we would revisit the first episode of the revival of Doctor Who with Rose, an episode we have covered on the podcast. We're going to be covering it again with a new perspective, perhaps. How does it hold up in a 2025 sort of lens, and comparing, how does it compare to the first episode of Series 1 that we've had? Now the show's being rebooted essentially again, so we will be looking at that next week.
I'm excited.
Then perhaps the news, and then Series 2 of Doctor Who's kind of beginning at that point. And next month. Isn't that insane? We're a month away from Doctor Who.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
That trailer was banging.
That trailer was great, but you just never know. I am still worried about the Mrs. Flood situation. I'm just imagining. I feel like we're going to get a resolution to that storyline with Mrs. Flood, and I'm not feeling it. I don't feel it. It's gonna be a letdown.
Probably, but it was a good trailer. But we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, you can subscribe to us on YouTube at Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast, where we have a plethora of old episodes where we deep dive into various Doctor Who related things. Just take a look. Who's your favorite Doctor? We have curated playlists. Look at our most popular videos. It's all there. It's worth a watch. It's worth a listen. We're on audio form as well if you want to listen to us on your commute and you don't pay for YouTube Premium for some reason. We are in Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, anywhere you can get podcasts, we are there. Just search Who Watches Who into your podcast feed and we should show up. Besides that, other things, subscribe. That's the big one. Subscribe, please. We're so close to 100 subs. Just subscribe.
Subscribe, like our video, leave a comment saying hello. Remember Matthew's quote of saying he likes big floppy things. Like,
He
write
doesn't.
that into the comments.
You say that like it's like a weird thing to say. And we will see you in a week, I hope, at some point in
We'll
the
see.
near future. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.